So if you're watching this video, you're here because you're trying to create a beautiful, one-of-a-kind Valentine card for your husband, your wife, a relative, mom, dad, whoever it may be. And that is what we're going to put together today. And we haven't done one of these in a while. We coined these as Paperscapes because it's kind of like a little scene inside of a card. So let's just jump right in. It's a lot of paper piecing, and then we kind of put it all together using the little mechanism that we've created here, and it's going to go together pretty quick. So let's just jump right in here. I've kind of laid some things out just so I know where everything goes, and we're going to begin by taking this piece and gluing it to the top of our main base here. Now I've already kind of pre-folded things. So it's kind of important that we get this piece down first. Okay, so let's get that glued down. And you can see the outline of where it goes, so it's not really a mystery by any stretch of the imagination. And this is we're using a lot of thick papers for this. You don't have to do that. It just so happens that these are the papers that we ended up choosing for our final version. But that is certainly going to make the card last a little bit longer, I think, and it'll kind of keep it from warping. So just get this piece in place and just make sure that you've got it nice and centered, nice and aligned, because the other pieces kind of are like little puzzle pieces. We want to make sure that we get them all on correctly. Okay. Next, we're going to glue this piece right on here. You can kind of see where it needs to go. And now I am gluing a foil onto foil. If you're doing the same, you're going to want to allow these pieces to set for a little bit, probably an extra minute or so, compared to, say, if we were just using cardstock. This stuff is very slippery and it's not as porous. Luckily, this back layer has some texture, so that'll help a little bit. But just get it nice and lined up and just press that down. Take a look and make sure that looks nice. It does. Okay. And now, while that's setting, we've got a series of little cutout hearts here that we need to glue into place. And I'll kind of walk you through that. Looks like this guy is going to go right here. And it may help just to kind of lay these out. These, I believe, are symmetrical pieces. They are. So these are the same. It doesn't matter which side you put it on. So I'm starting with the largest heart here. And you want that to kind of butt up against the little cutout of the heart just below it. Make sure you get it nice and centered. And press that down into place. And do the same thing with the other one. So it's a lot of paper piecing, which is fun and simple. Let's start with that, and then we'll move on to actually putting this together as far as the structures go. Okay, so again, remember we've got some symmetrical pieces here. So these two look the same. Obviously, this one is going to go on the right-hand side. The other one is going to go on the left-hand side. And just kind of follow along and watch where I put all my pieces. If for some reason you can't tell based on the video, you can always take a look at the final photo on our website as well, as that isn't moving, and it's a nice little stationary shot of the end result, which you can just take a look at, and it'll definitely lead you to where you need to go. Okay. So we're just kind of following the little cutouts that are already there to place these hearts down. Okay, and then we have two more, and this one's going to go on the left-hand side. Just going to, again, kind of follow the little cutouts that are already there. just like that. Beautiful. And the last one. And of course, it wouldn't be a Dreaming Tree project if we didn't really embellish this with some additional bling. There we go. So again, you're going to want to take a look at the final photo to see where we added our little rhinestones and things of that nature. That is kind of the fun part, and it's really open to however you want to do it. So now I'm going to pop this piece into place. Of course, we're going to glue it. I'm just making sure that everything is fitting nicely, and it is. So that looks really nice. And what I'm going to do, since this is a really large piece with a lot of little details, I'm going to do this in 2 sections. So I'll just start with the top, try to get glue into as many of these little nooks and crannies as possible, and I'll probably stop at like this heart here. And we'll get this part in place first, and then since it's kind of a flimsy piece, we should be able to lift it up and glue the other half after the fact. So I'm kind of starting in the center here, making sure that that's fitting into the little slot there, just like a little puzzle, and then making my way around. As you can see, this white glitter that I'm putting down right now, I did hit that with a little bit of turquoise ink just to make it pop a little more. Okay, and that looks great. That looks wonderful. Okay, so now you can kind of take this and however you want to do it. Actually, you see how flimsy it is? It really opens itself up to kind of working on it in this manner so that we don't have to try to get every single little inch of this all in one shot, especially if you're in a dry climate like I am right now and the humidity is just pulling all the moisture out of everything. This will be a surefire way to get it done without making any mistakes. Okay, so we're just going to lay this down, and it should just kind of fall into place because the other part of this is already anchored where it needs to be, and that looks nice. There we go. Okay. All right, so now we've got a series of little pieces down here, and it's a symmetrical piece, so whatever we do to one side, we're going to end up repeating on the other side. So I've got this little piece here. There's a few little indicators down here to help you with the positioning of this. So that little round section at the tip, just pop that right into the little round identifier there, or marker. And just get that glued down, and then you'll see a couple more little markers just above that, and those are for the little heart that's going to go there. We've got actually 4 hearts, 2 that go there, and then 2 more that go into this little section here, which I'll show you in just a moment. So again, take that round part, fit it in there, and then find that little V shape and pop that right in there. There we go. Okay, and now the little hearts that go here, you'll have a total of 4 hearts. 2 of them are a little bit larger. The smaller ones are going to go here. So let's get that in place. Just a few little dots of glue. You don't need a ton. And use those little guides to help you with the positioning and alignment of this little heart. Here we go. Grab our other small one, a few little dots, and pop that into place, just like that. Now you've got some markers here on these 2 sides where the larger heart's going to go. So let's just get our glue onto the larger heart, and again, using those little markers, kind of sandwich it in there according to the guides, the little markers there. And all this paper is super slippery. I'm not working with a lot of texture here, so I just need to be a little more patient with my gluing. And we'll get Get the last heart on there, and then we'll work on the little caption part that we have for the very bottom of this, our little sentiment. And just kind of wiggle that into place. Pardon my head for a second here. I just want to make sure that I got it aligned nicely. That looks good. Okay, so far so good. All right, now let's take a look at this section here. And it's comprised of these little areas. Now we're going to ultimately take this and we're going to pop dot it onto this surface here. But before we do that, first thing I'm going to do is, you can see how when this was peeled off the mat, it kind of bent a little bit. So I'm going to straighten it out. Okay, and now we've got these white pieces that are going to go here on the sides. So we'll get that glued down first, and that'll maybe straighten this piece out a little bit more too. So when we glue it to our silver foil, maybe it'll sit nice and flat for us. And what I'll probably end up doing is, after I get all this glued together, I'll probably pop it underneath my mat and give it a little bit of time to kind of flatten out a little bit. Okay, so get that first little wing in place. Get that nice and lined up. And as you can see here, hopefully, on the wing, I did hit this with a little bit of turquoise ink as well. Kind of gives it a frosty appearance, a little wintry appearance for a lot of us. Not everyone. Or I was going to say Thanksgiving. Valentine's Day is always in the dead of winter. Not a very warm holiday. So it's only appropriate that we kind of give it a little wintry feel. Okay, so there's my other wing. And then we've got a little print and cut caption. I've already cut this out. You can obviously use a stamp if you have a Valentine's Day stamp instead of doing a print and cut. That's up to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to zot this, or use my little foam square. I just bought some new foam squares, but I think they're still inside. So I'm just going to use this foam square roll. And you can just kind of cut whatever size pieces I want. And we're going to put those right onto the back of my heart. And that one kind of just fell into place, so we'll just leave it where it is. Okay, and that's going to go right smack in the center of our little heart here. And I also inked this with a little bit of purple. Okay, so there we have that. Now we're going to glue this to this piece here, and this is going to be nice and centered on here as well. Okay, so this piece again, I think it's very rigid, and it looks like when we pulled it off the mat, it kind of bent a little bit, but that's okay. I'll just kind of maybe bend it back just a tad. If this ever happens, you can do that. Okay, and I'm going to glue this down onto my silver foil here. It's a quick little card. I'm going to guess that it'll probably take me about, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes maybe, if that. You guys, when you do this, you're not sitting there blabbing, trying to teach someone else how to do it, so maybe we'll go faster for you. Okay, so do your best to get that nice and centered onto this piece, a nice even border all the way around the wings, as well as the heart. And just press that into place. And now I'm gluing, well, something that is not very porous on the back onto another structure that isn't the most porous. So I really need to kind of take my time here and press this down and make sure that it's making good contact before I even think about putting this into place, which is, it's going to go right here ultimately when it's done. I'm going to stick this underneath my mat and let this flatten out a little bit. Okay. In the meantime, we can start working on the other sections. We're almost done, actually. It's not a very complex card. Okay, so we've got one of the inserts here, and we've got this little piece here. This is the only piece that goes on here. And kind of like we did before, I think the best thing to do is maybe just try to do half of this at a time instead of trying to do it all in one shot. I think with all these little details, it may not work out. Well, maybe it will. Maybe I'm overestimating the surface area here. So let's just try it. And actually, for me, because I'm using, and this is another foil, the back of this is not very porous. It's actually very kind of glossy. So I'm thinking that maybe the glue will actually not soak in very quickly. I may be able to get this done in one shot. Okay, so my suggestion here would be to work on, well, first off, when you place this, start at the bottom center and get that little centerpiece aligned with the little circle, well, almost a full circle. Get that lined up first, and then focus on the little hearts and make sure that you get that aligned with the hearts, like so. And I think I got it. Might need to kind of nudge things ever so slightly just to get them in the right spot. That looks pretty spot on. And just press that down, get it into place. And that would be it for this section. And we'll start putting all this together here in just a moment once we start putting the actual card mechanism together. Okay, but that is that. Just make sure that that's getting a good hold. I'm going to pop this underneath my mat as well. Let the gravity in the mat kind of do some work for me. And then our main focal point here is our little Cupid. And we've got one section that's a little bit wider than the other section. It has some tabs. So let's fold the tabs. And these tabs are going to fold back away from you like this. Okay, we don't need to worry about that just yet. Okay, so this is double layered just to kind of add a little thickness to it. So we do need to glue this down onto this piece here. So let's do that. Let's get our glue on this whole thing back here. And now we're back to the cardstock here, so we got to kind of work quick and try to get that glue into as many of these little nooks and crannies as you can, especially down here towards the little tips. Okay, and we're just going to lay this right on top of itself as far as the design goes. Try to get that nice and lined up as accurately as you can. That looks pretty good. There we go. And then get these little details nice and lined up. Just kind of giving them a little nudge to get them into the right spot. And if for some reason there's little areas that are kind of lifting up, we can always fix that. It's not a problem. That looks pretty good. And I'll check my work here in a second. I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper and get that ready in case we do need to go in and clean some of these up. Like I can tell here, this little section, the very tip of that isn't sitting nice and flat for me. So I just put a little, well actually that one is, this one isn't. Put a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of paper, and then I'm just taking that glue and rubbing it on the underside of this section here that was kind of peeling off. And now I can press down right in that little area and get that to hold nicely for me. And I'm going to check the rest of my work here, check the tips, make sure everything is sitting on top of itself nicely. I see I've got a little area there on the wings, barely sticking off, but I'm going to just put a little bit of glue right in between those two layers and press that down, make sure that's making good contact. This looks good down here. Everything looks good. Okay. So that's good. Now, just need to do some paper piecing to, well, make this look a little more interesting. Okay, and I'm going to start with, this is our, where does this go? There it goes, like that. Okay, so it's our little crescent moon, and that's going to go on just like that. So let's get our glue on the back of this. And this little part that kind of cuts in a lot, that's her little elbow. So kind of keep an eye on that. And actually I would focus on lining up the very bottom tip of the moon first, and then just make sure that it's kind of hugging the overall shape of our little moon here. And that is probably all you'll need to do to get that aligned correctly. Okay, and then we have her nice hair with her wings, and that's going to go like that. Okay, so let's get our glue on the back of this. I'll put that into place, and just make sure that you get a little bit of glue out to the very ends and tips of her wings. Okay, and I'm kind of just aligning this with the little holes, the little cutouts on her wings, and then getting that all nice and centered. Okay, that looks good. And we can take the other half of the moon and get that in place. And it's kind of just like a little puzzle piece. Just pop that right in. Okay. And she is, well, she needs some clothes. And we've got this little piece here. We're going to glue that down. Just kind of follow along with what you're seeing on the screen here, and if for some reason you can't see it very well, again, just take a look at the photo on our website, but you should be able to see this okay. Okay, so just kind of line that up with the little cutouts. Okay, and then we've got this tiny little piece that's going to go down here, and that's her little gown kind of hanging there. It's a tiny little piece. If you've got a pick-me-up tool handy, this little silhouette pick-me-up tool, this would be a good time to use this little piece here, or on this little piece, I should say. And just kind of pop that into place like a little puzzle, press that down, and there we go. Okay, so there she is, our little Cupid. Okay. And that is it as far as all of the different pieces go. So at this point, we can go ahead and begin constructing the actual card itself. And we're going to do that by taking this piece. Make sure that you get everything nice and folded at the score marks. I'm going to take the back of this, and we're going to glue this down first. So let's begin by putting glue on one of these tabs. It doesn't matter which side. I'm going to start with this side here and get that glue out to the very edge, just like that. And now just make sure that this little cutout here is at the bottom. That's where we're going to slide our little tea light to kind of illuminate this thing. So get that as accurately as you can as far as the alignment goes. You can actually do this flat. Get that down to the bottom. Make sure that it's nice and flush at the bottom, and then nice and flush at the top as well. This paper is kind of, it's not as porous either. It's very thick, so hopefully I got enough glue on there. I can fold this over onto the seam and press down. Make sure that that is getting good contact. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, I'm just going to connect the other side here onto the other tab. Glue that down like that. Get that glue out to the edge, And you technically should be able to do this flat as well. So the tab is here, and I'm just going to do this flat, at least to start. Just tuck that tab underneath, lay that down, and just make sure that everything is nice and aligned. And press that down. You can fold it over onto this seam here. There we go. It's a really, really thick paper. There we go. Okay. So there's the main structure of our card. You can see how nice that looks. Okay. And while you're working on this, you may want to just kind of fold it back and forth. Make sure that it sits nice and flat on both sides. Really, really thick paper, which is nice. Okay, so now I'm going to take this piece, and this piece is going to get glued inside. Okay, this is going to be, I'm going to keep a nice even border all the way around the back of this. We've got a lot of surface area to cover here, so do your best, and then I'm just going to slide that right in. And adhere that to the inside. We'll create a nice little background for our paper sculpture here, or Paperscape, I should say. Okay, just slide that right in. And just line up the bottom as accurately as you can. Okay, so once you've got it nice and centered in there, just press down all the way around the perimeter. You want to make sure that that's not lifting off, the top, the bottom, all that good stuff. Okay, and then we just need to put our little inserts in, finish it off with our little caption on the front, and then our card is pretty much done. Okay, there you go. You can see how beautiful that little sky looks in the background there. And let's pull these pieces out, get them ready. Okay, so our little Cupid is going to go in the back section like this. Okay, she's going to be hanging back there like this. And we do want to make sure that, so there's these little tabs here. We're going to put glue on both of these tabs, and we want this surface here, the top of this, to be flush with the very top of the box here as well. Okay, so I'll show you how that works. And also, these are going to, this edge of our tab here is going to be flush with the back. Okay, so it's kind of be sitting, just naturally resting on the bottom of our card here. So you can see how it's resting on the bottom. Okay, so it's not up here, it's all the way at the bottom. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like once everything's said and done. But let's get our glue onto these tabs. And it's okay if you go a little heavier on the glue here, because we may need just a few extra moments to get this to sit in position and kind of fold it back and forth a few times. Okay, so I've got the glue on both tabs. I'm going to slide it in. Okay, you can kind of bend it a little bit if you need to. Let it kind of sit flat up against the back of the card. Okay, and then just tuck this in until this tab is nice and flush with the top. Same goes on this side here. And then just press that up against the side of the structure here. Make sure that it's completely flush on both sides, and then just press that. Okay, now while it's still kind of drying, you can take it and fold it down, because we want this to be able to go back and forth. Oops, got kind of hung up there. And there we go. And just press that down. And there we go. Okay, so that is what it should look like from the top. Okay, you can see the inside there, the tab glued to the inside. Okay, now we're going to take this piece here, and this piece, kind of the same thing, except we're going to make sure that these tabs are flush with the bottom of our main structure here. Okay, so we're going to slide it in this way, flush with the front. Okay, so it's going to go flush. We want these tabs to be the very face of this, or the edge of this needs to be flush with the front of the box. Okay, same goes on the bottom. So it's going to look like that when it's all said and done. So let's take this out real quick, and let me straighten this out a little bit. So we're going to get our glue and put our glue on these two tabs here, these two long tabs. And again, it's okay if we go a little heavy on the glue here. Okay, and if it helps, you can kind of flip this over so that you can kind of just let it rest on the surface. So we're going to slide this in. It's making contact with the surface of my table. It's just kind of resting on the table. Okay, I'm going to slide it all the way in until it's flush with the bottom, just like that. And then you just take and push those tabs in onto the side. If it helps, you can grab a little dowel to help you kind of push that down. And make sure that it's nice and flush with the front of the card as well. You can kind of stick your finger in here, get that. Make sure that it's nice and flush there, and then also on this side, take a look there, that looks good. Okay, now while it's still kind of setting, you should be able to take it and fold it down, and that will kind of help you push that glue into place. And then you can take it and fold it the other way as well and press that down. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so we've got, you can kind of see through the top here how that's supposed to sit. Okay, so again, these tabs are going towards the back. They're nice and flush with the top. And then this section, the tabs are coming towards the front, and they're nice and flush with the bottom. Okay, so there is the final result there. And now all we need to do is take this piece here. I'm going to grab my little foam tape and just cut a few pieces. I'll probably just do like 5 pieces. And put one here, put one here, one at the bottom, and then maybe one here and one here. And we'll just peel those off. There we go. And I'm just going to adhere that roughly about here. Okay, so you can see how there's these two little circular scallops here. You kind of want the little valley of the heart to cover those up ever so slightly. Make sure that you've got it nice and centered. And I'll just pop that into place. You can fold this over. So this card, you should be able to fold it both ways if you got it glued correctly. And there you go. There's the final result. Beautiful card. Okay, and it wouldn't be complete without a coordinating envelope. And we've got a large envelope here. It's probably one of the biggest ones we've ever made, but that's okay. All right, so let's get all this scored and folded. Okay. And the little front and the flap are going to be separate. Okay, so you can see that this piece is going to go on like this. And then we've got a flap that's going to go on top as well. So it doesn't matter which one or where we start. Either way is fine. Let's start with, actually, you know what? Let's start with the flap. So, and actually this doesn't matter which way you do it. It's pretty much a symmetrical piece. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to glue this right here, like so. So we need to put our glue onto this large tab, and you want to go very thin with the glue here. This is, for some reason, this is where I tend to get warping no matter how careful I am. So let's just be cautious and go easy on the glue here. So let's line that up with that tab, just like that. And try to flatten that glue out so it doesn't get a chance to warp at all. Okay, we can fold this over. Okay, now actually what I'm noticing here is that there is a T and there is a B on here, so this would be the top. Again, I'm not really sure that it really matters, but that's okay. All right, then we have this little liner piece that's going to go inside here so that it kind of creates this little motif here. So let's get our glue onto this structure here. Now there's going to be a little bit of a border around this wing part, so don't go too far out when it comes to the perimeter. Just kind of keep it in if you can. And that should do it. So just kind of tuck that in there, get it nice and centered. You have a nice little even border going all the way around, as I mentioned. And just press that down. Okay. There we go. Press that down, and we do have a little heart. It's going to go right on here. So we can take that and glue that down. And then we just close her up with our large piece there. So just make sure you get this nice and centered, nice even border. That looks good, I think. Yep. There we go. Okay. Now you move that out of the way. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this large piece and I'm going to anchor it to the bottom first. Okay. And then we'll close it up. I don't want to try to do all three of these large tabs at the same time. That could end up being a little difficult. So we'll just start with one section at a time here. Get that glue out to the edges. Get that nice and centered. It's kind of like we're putting the flap on, except it's just a little bit larger. And make sure that's nice and centered. Press that down. There we go. Okay, and then all that's left to do, we can kind of pull this out for a second. And as you can see here, I got a little area that just didn't stick very well. Just going to paint a little bit of glue right into that section there. Maybe we'll do it through this way. And press that down. There we go. Just be patient, it is a pretty large area. Okay, so fold this down again. We'll bring these tabs in now. And we can close this envelope up. Throw a little bit of glue on both these tabs. Okay, flip it around. It's a big old envelope, huh? Okay, and I'm going to thin that out so it doesn't warp. This side's probably already starting to dry. There we go. Okay, and then just bring these tabs in slightly and make sure that they get underneath, and then just press that down into place. And there's our envelope. Just make sure that you kind of keep pressing down until everything has a good hold. Now, if you're going to hand deliver this, you know, well, I'd probably still make an envelope. It makes it all the more fun receiving a card like this when you get to take it out, because, man, when's the last time you saw a card this large? Okay. All right, so there's our beautiful envelope, and that looks good. I'm probably going to put that underneath my mat here just to kind of let it sit, but you can see how nicely that fits in there. And there she is, beautiful, ready to go. Again, I'm going to let this kind of sit underneath my mat for a little bit just to flatten out. And that is it. There's your beautiful card, a one-of-a-kind sort of piece for Valentine's Day. Your special Valentine will absolutely love it. Oh, and by the way, this little cutout here is for those little electronic submersible tea lights that we use in a lot of our projects. So if you are gifting this or giving it, you can include a little tea light with a little remote, and you can turn it on. It'll kind of illuminate it, and it'll be, you know, something very memorable for Valentine's Day. And also take a look at the final photo. I'm going to add some rhinestones and things of that nature, just to kind of add a little bit more sparkle to this piece, just to finish it off. So you'll see that in the final photo. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the process. If you did, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. As you can see behind me, we just hit 26,000 subscribers, so thank you for everyone that's already subscribed. Again, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button, and also hit that little bell, that little notification bell, so that when we do release a new product, whether it be a paid or freebie, you'll be the first to know. And if you do happen to make this or any of the pieces from our new Valentine's Day bundle, we'd love to see it. So head on over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can just follow the handy little link here just below me. And we'd love to see what you're working on, and you can join myself and the 17,000 plus other dreamers that inspire us daily. So thanks again for hanging out with me, and I look forward to crafting with you next time.